How can a bank prove the money belongs to them? I was a top-tier lawyer with an exceptional win rate. On a bad day, I could send my opponent to prison. On a normal day, I could send both my opponent and their lawyer to prison. On an exceptional day, even the judge holding the gavel would go down. But then, an accident transported me to a parallel world. In this world, I'm a third-rate divorce lawyer. 2.5 years after graduation, I've taken 5 cases and lost 4. Since arriving here, I haven't landed a single case in half a month. Just as I'm about to give up and change careers, an elderly couple walks into the law firm. Before I can even stand to greet them, the old man jumps straight to his request. Their son is accused of robbing a bank, and they need a lawyer to defend him. Hopefully, someone who can reduce his sentence. My heart races with excitement. Bank robbery means criminal prosecution. Cases like this are notoriously difficult. But that's exactly what I need to make a name for this firm. So I asked the old man to walk me through the entire case. Here's what happened. The elderly man fell critically ill and was rushed to the hospital. He sent his son to the bank to withdraw money for medical treatment, money from his own savings account. Since he wasn't the account holder, the bank demanded proof that he was the old man's son. Even with an ID, household registration, and critical condition notice, they refused. The bank staff was adamant. The old man had to come in person to verify it himself, or no money. But the old man was in the ICU, fighting for his life. How could he come? How could he prove anything? Right in the middle of this argument, several robbers burst in and held up the bank. One of the robbers learned that the son needed money to save his father's life. Without hesitation, the robber gave him a portion of the stolen cash. The son, desperate and out of options, took the money straight to the hospital. Later, when the gang was arrested, the son was identified as an accomplice because he'd taken the money. He was convicted of major robbery and sentenced to 20 years in prison. The old man appealed, but the second trial upheld the original verdict. Now we're at the final trial stage. Once the final verdict is handed down, there will be no more appeals. The case will be closed forever. When the old man mentions the second trial, his anger flares. That lawyer came from a top-tier firm down south, claimed to be an elite criminal defense attorney, demanded $188,000 in fees. Then in court, all he said was 3 sentences. Okay, yes, and we accept the judge's ruling. The old man trembles with rage just remembering it. His wife, Margaret, quickly pats Harold's back. Attorney, this case has gotten a lot of attention. We heard the final trial might be live-streamed. We don't trust big firms anymore. We've been to so many small firms, but no one will take the case. The case is high-profile, and with the live-stream format, I'm absolutely thrilled. This is free advertising for the firm. Without hesitation, I take the case and make a promise. If you're not satisfied with the outcome, no fee. We quickly sign the representation agreement. Just then, a young woman walks in. Hello, attorney. I'm here to report for my internship. Searching through the original owner's memories, I finally recall who she is. Her name is Emily Carter, an intern the previous owner hired. Today's her first day. Emily is a top student in her senior year at Capital Law School. She applied to a small firm specifically for the hands-on experience. Perfect timing. Come with me to the courthouse. Soon we return from the courthouse with copies of all the case files. Emily reviews the files and looks worried. Both the first and second trials had identical rulings. Unless we have groundbreaking new evidence, they'll most likely uphold the original verdict. And I heard the prosecutor on this case is supposed to be really tough. Oh no, is my very first case doomed from the start? A wave of despair washes over Emily. But after reviewing the files, I'm pretty much certain about the outcome. I already know how this case will end. Attorney, are we going to lose this case? Emily is still drowning in despair. Lose? Harold's son didn't rob anyone. How could we possibly lose? Didn't rob anyone? What do you mean? You'll see when we get to court. It's a secret for now? A faint smile curves my lips. I'm absolutely confident. I stride forward. Lose? That word doesn't exist in my vocabulary. Emily is curious but doesn't press further, jogging to keep up. Even though this case has essentially been decided, I still choose to meet with Harold's son and the suspects first, to hear their side of the story. David Thompson's case has been controversial from the start. After losing both trials, the formal ruling hasn't been issued yet. David is still detained. Hurry. David has been summoned. I bring Emily to the interrogation room. David looks terrible. After going through 2 trials, he's lost all hope of a reduced sentence. David lifts his head and looks at me. Hello, attorney. Do I still have a chance? A slight smile plays on my lips. Absolutely. I promised your parents. David's head snaps up. Really? You're not just saying that? No fee if we lose. Are you confident we can win? If I've taken this case, I definitely have some confidence. As long as you cooperate fully, reducing your sentence won't be a problem. How much depends on your attitude? I'm completely confident about this case. I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you need. Seeing my confidence, David nods vigorously. A spark of hope reignites in his heart. I signal Emily to take notes and begin asking about the details of the incident and his responses during the first and second trials. Half an hour later, I walk out of the detention center satisfied. Everything I needed to confirm is confirmed. confirmed. Time to prepare for trial. Back at the firm, I quickly organize the trial materials and hand them to Emily. Emily opens them and looks uncertain. Attorney, isn't this approach a bit too aggressive? This case calls for aggressive tactics. Go ahead and process it. Soon after, the final trial application for David Thompson's case is submitted and approved. At the same time, a court summons arrives at Central Bank's legal department. Lawsuit against Central Bank for improper conduct leading to the wrongful conviction of our client, David Thompson, seeking $200,000 in compensation for lost wages and emotional distress. What the hell? In David Thompson's case, the bank was the victim, and now they're receiving a summons from the defendant? This is absolutely ridiculous. Since when do robbers have grounds to sue? William Ross, Central Bank's director, is furious about this. He immediately contacts the legal department, demanding they handle this seriously. Meanwhile, given the unique nature of David's case, the headline son gets 20 years for taking money to save dying father quickly goes viral online. Since when are banks the victims? They demand this and that when you withdraw money, but they're super eager when selling credit cards. I support David. If the bank hadn't been so difficult, he could have gotten the money to save his father without any of this. Bank employees act so servile when you're depositing money. You people don't understand what banks go through. You can't really blame the bank. Blame the temp workers. Mass message for 50 cents each. Please add me to that group. I want to make that money too. Online public opinion overwhelmingly blames the bank. Seeing the backlash, William Ross is seething with anger and issues an absolute order. We must win this live-streamed trial, and we must win in the court of public opinion. If you can't do that, I'll replace the entire legal department. At Dawn Law Firm, I scroll through videos with delight. Watching the online discourse, a smile tugs at my lips. So far, this lawsuit against Central Bank and David's final trial have attracted massive attention. Win or lose, the firm will be famous. Emily looks at the online comments with mixed feelings. Attorney, this has become such a big deal. What if we lose? I lean back in my chair and tilt my head to see her face. There's no what if. The files I asked you to compile on Central Bank's recent cases and the contact information for victims. Did you finish that? Let me see. Emily hands me the materials. I flip directly to the page with victim contact information. Then I dial the first number. Hello, I'm an attorney from Dawn Law Firm. I understand you sued Central Bank 2.5 years ago but lost. Interested in seeing how Central Bank loses a case. After hanging up, I call the second contact using the same pitch. Emily watches me, a flash of surprise in her eyes. You can find witnesses this way. She doesn't quite understand my methods. This is completely different from what they teach in law school. She doesn't see much of the polished professional attorney in me, but she's learning a lot. Understanding relationships is one lesson. Finding witnesses like this is another. 2.5 hours later, I put down the phone and exhale deeply. All the preparation is finally complete. Everything's in place. Now we just wait for trial. The next day, as expected, Central Bank rejects the court's PRE trial mediation and delivers some harsh words. I couldn't care less about their posturing. Anyone can talk big outside the courtroom. Soon enough, it's time for the trial. Because this case has generated so much buzz online, reporters are waiting outside the courthouse, eager for a story. Central Bank's lawyers arrive and are immediately swarmed by reporters. Leading the bank's defense is Marcus Lee, a young attorney in his 20s from their legal department. Marcus clears his throat twice, looking confident. Compared to Marcus and the Central Bank legal team being mobbed by reporters, my side is quiet. Hardly any reporters pay attention to me. Smiling, I turn and lead Emily into the courtroom to wait for the trial to begin. Emily looks nervous. Attorney, this trial is being live streamed. What if something goes wrong? What if? There is no what if, unless the judge deliberately makes a wrong ruling. And if that happens, this case will become even more explosive. I smile, gesturing for Emily not to worry. In this parallel world, the law is taken very seriously. The law has true sanctity. Everyone is equal before the law. Judges generally enforce the law strictly according to its provisions. I've already researched the presiding judge and panel for this trial. The presiding judge is Judge Patricia Zhao, Vice President of Municipal Court. She has an extensive background in legal research, years of courtroom experience, and has presided over hundreds of trials with sound, well-reasoned judgments. I have no worries about unfair treatment. Judge Zhao is famous for her impartial rulings. Once both legal teams are seated, the court clerk begins reading the courtroom rules. To maintain courtroom order and decorum, the following rules are now read. 1. All parties, their legal representatives, and observers must follow the presiding judge's instructions. 2. When the judicial panel enters the courtroom and when the presiding judge announces the court's ruling, all present must rise. After the reading, the presiding judge and panel will now enter. All rise. Judge Zhao and two panel judges enter the courtroom. The gavel strikes. Court is now in session. Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, the live stream begins. Many people are tuning in to watch. In Central Bank's legal office, Director William Ross and Legal Department Director Vincent Shaw are watching the live stream. William looks up. Vincent, has it started? Just began a moment ago. There are already hundreds of viewers in the live stream. Our legal department cannot lose this case. Understand? Vincent nods with a smile. Director Ross, rest assured. Our legal team will win this decisively. William nods, satisfied. This trial is live streamed with substantial media coverage online. Central Bank is under immense pressure. If they lose this trial, it will seriously damage Central Bank's reputation. William, as the bank's director, will also face serious consequences. They cannot lose. In the courtroom, after verifying information, Judge Zhao strikes the gavel. The plaintiff may now state the facts, grounds, and appeal requests. I sit at the attorney's table, knowing the critical moment has arrived. I adjust my suit slightly and begin my oral statement. Our demands are straightforward. First, we do not accept the verdicts from the first and second trials. Our client committed no crime, yet he's been falsely accused of robbery. We appeal to overturn both trial verdicts and request the cancellation of the original rulings to restore our client's innocence. Second, we request that the defendant, Central Bank, compensate our client. Central Bank's errors in judgment led to our client's wrongful 20-year prison sentence. He has been detained for an extended period. We seek $200,000 in compensation. This amount has been carefully calculated. It's not excessive. Third, Central Bank has severely damaged our client's reputation. We demand Central Bank issue a public apology on all online platforms for no less than 20 days. Fourth, we demand Central Bank's executives publicly clarify the facts, not only to restore our client's innocence, but also to apologize to all other victims who have suffered similar treatment at Central Bank. Dead silence falls over the courtroom. Everyone looks baffled. Is this lawsuit request for real? Not only is he demanding the first and second trial verdicts be overturned, he's claiming the defendant is innocent and wants complete exoneration. Okay, fine, but on top of that, he's demanding compensation from Central Bank. Wait, you're representing an alleged robber, and you're asking the bank to pay your client $200,000? Are you planning to rob them again? Or is this just robbery with a price tag? Compared to that, the third and fourth demands are child's play, not even worth mentioning. Outside the courtroom, watching the live stream, not only regular viewers, but also some court personnel and practicing attorneys are stunned. They originally thought the plaintiff would definitely lose this case, but with such a high-profile live stream trial and an experienced judge, maybe getting a reduced sentence would be possible. That would still be a win of sorts. But making these kinds of demands, what is this, a wish list? Even wishes aren't this ambitious. Win or lose, this lawsuit request is absolutely unprecedented. It might even go down as a classic case in legal history. This lawsuit request, even a wish wouldn't be this bold. Even Buddha couldn't grant this. Don't laugh yet. Let's hear what Professor Luo thinks. Professor Robert Stone shakes his head slightly. If he's made these demands, he must have corresponding factual basis. This attorney's requests seem outrageous, but the actual outcome depends on what evidence he presents. If he has no relevant evidence, this would be false statements, essentially perjury. As a lawyer, he shouldn't make such a mistake. I can't say for sure. Let's keep watching. In Central Bank's legal office, William Ross frowns slightly. Director Vincent Shaw beside him says with a laugh, "Director, this lawsuit is pure sensationalism. Just watch. If he can't produce factual basis or legal arguments, he might end up charged with perjury himself." William stares intently at the live stream. "Yes, but remember, no matter what, we must win this trial decisively." In the courtroom, Judge Zhao frowns slightly at my demands. "Isn't this lawsuit request nonsense?" At this moment, Marcus Lee can't help but interject with a cold laugh. "These demands, can the plaintiff's attorney provide relevant factual evidence and legal arguments? If not, you could be convicted of obstruction of justice." I smile slightly. "That seems to have nothing to do with the defense attorney. Your Honor, opposing counsel is verbally attacking me and attempting to disrupt normal judicial proceedings." I move for his removal from court. Marcus is about to say something, but Judge Zhao on the bench frowns slightly and strikes the gavel. Bang! Motion denied. Plaintiff's motion is dismissed. It's not yet the defense's turn to speak. "Defense counsel, you are warned." Faced with the gavel strike and warning, Marcus can only swallow his anger and the words he'd prepared. This is unbearable. Marcus squints, glaring at me. How is is this guy so cunning? Which law school did he graduate from? Not only are his demands ridiculous, but now one sentence from him and this guy moves to have him removed from court. Removal from court means you've disrupted the proceedings or the opposing party and must temporarily leave. Obviously, his words didn't actually disrupt anything. Yet this guy is so underhanded he moves for removal anyway. Marcus takes a deep breath, consoling himself. This attorney's lawsuit demands are completely baseless and have already disrupted normal judicial procedure. If he can't produce evidence, he'll face detention or even criminal detention. Not only will I win this lawsuit directly, but Central Bank will also win the public opinion battle. There's no need to get angry. Marcus gradually calms down. On the bench, Judge Zhao frowns slightly and issues a warning. Plaintiff's counsel, as the presiding judge, I'm obligated to verify your lawsuit demands. If you have no factual or legal basis for your arguments, according to criminal law, giving false testimony in court will result in prosecution for false litigation, with criminal liability pursued according to law. Beside me, Emily is so nervous that beads of sweat appear on her face. She wants to tug on my sleeve to get me to calm down, but I nod seriously. Your Honor, I know the consequences of making false statements. I take full responsibility for everything I say in this court. A wave of murmurs breaks out in the courtroom. Bang, bang! Order in the court! Judge Zhao strikes the gavel. She continues, very well. Since you've confirmed your lawsuit demands, the defendant, Central Bank, may now present their response and counterclaims. This is his chance. Marcus, as Central Bank's attorney, straightens up slightly. Our response is as follows. First, regarding the plaintiff David Thompson's accusations against Central Bank, we move to dismiss all claims and demand serious consequences for such egregious conduct. Second, we move to uphold the municipal primary court and municipal intermediate court's first and second trial verdicts. Third, we demand the plaintiff compensate us in full for reputational damages in the amount of $500,000. Fourth, we demand the plaintiff cover all our legal fees. Your Honor, my response and counterclaims are complete. Bang! Judge Zhao strikes the gavel. Both parties have presented their demands. The plaintiff may now present relevant factual and legal evidence. As Judge Zhao's words fall, all eyes turn to me. After all, the plaintiff's lawsuit demands are rather outrageous. Everyone wants to see what kind of factual and legal basis I can produce. Emily, as my assistant, is so nervous her palms are sweating. Attorney, what do we do now? Do we have evidential basis? Wait, do we even have evidence? Emily frantically flips through the case materials in her hands. My lips twitch slightly. What kind of question is that? You're a law firm intern and you're still worried about this now. I pull the materials from Emily's hands and speak calmly. Your Honor, before presenting the relevant legal basis, I'd like my client to describe the incident. Bang! Motion granted. The defendant may now describe the incident. In the defendant's seat, David Thompson slowly rises, looking at the two bailiffs beside him, his expression somewhat nervous. When his eyes meet mine, he calms down slightly. Your Honor, may I have some water? Granted. After Judge Zhao speaks, a bailiff hands David a bottle of water. After drinking, his nervousness completely subsides, and he begins, the incident was straightforward. My father was in the ICU, desperately needing money. I went to Central Bank to withdraw funds, but the staff refused because I wasn't the account holder. They said my father had to come in person, or I needed proof I was his son. Even the household registration wasn't enough. I remember while I was arguing with the bank staff, a group of robbers suddenly burst in and held up the bank. One of the robbers noticed me sitting on the floor crying. He gave me a portion of the stolen money. Then I took the money to the hospital to pay the bills. I raise my hand. Your Honor, I move to question my client about some details. The gavel falls. Granted, but you may not ask about matters outside the case or lead the defendant's subjective intent. After receiving Judge Zhao's permission, I ask, Defendant, did you participate in the robbery? No. Then can you describe in detail how the robber gave you the money? I remember it was a short robber who saw me on the floor with my head in my hands, crying. He called me a coward, said, how could I be so terrified? I told him it was because my father was hospitalized. I couldn't get the money out, and I was worried about my father, so I was crying. That robber seemed to be robbing the bank to get money to save his own family member. After hearing what happened to me, he pulled out 2 bundles of cash and stuffed them into my arms. I continue questioning. And then, after the robber put the money in your arms, what did you do first? David answers quickly. I remember very clearly. My first instinct was not to take it. I was terrified. Then that robber cursed at me, called me an unfilial son, so I took the money. Good. Thank you for your cooperation. objection. Your Honor, I've finished questioning. Bang! The gavel falls. Judge Zhao looks toward the plaintiff's table. Plaintiff's counsel has completed questioning. You may now begin your legal arguments. Yes, Your Honor. I slowly pull from my materials the key issues raised by the prosecution in the first trial. Your Honor, these are the prosecution's issues and conviction ruling from the Municipal Primary Court's first trial. I believe this ruling has many problems, many unreasonable aspects that have caused serious harm to our client. All eyes in the courtroom focus on me. The first trial's ruling is unreasonable. Is he trying to overturn it? The jury and gallery all fix their gaze on me. Even viewers watching the live stream suddenly perk up. Does this mean he's challenging the first trial's verdict, trying to overturn the legal ruling? Haha, I think that's exactly what this means. Whatever the final verdict, just attempting to overturn the first trial is fascinating. Questioning unreasonable aspects of the first trial verdict is fine, but overturning it requires presenting new evidence. This young attorney seems very confident. Professor Stone sees the comments and watches the live stream with a slight smile. This plaintiff's attorney is impressive. At least his courtroom performance is quite good. But as for how this attorney plans to overturn the first trial verdict, I'm not sure yet. My attention to this case has focused on the trial verdict itself. I'm not familiar with the first and second trial files, so I can't make a judgment. Let's just keep watching. In the courtroom, Judge Zhao's brow furrows slightly, her tone calm. Regarding the Municipal Primary Court's first trial verdict, what unreasonable aspects does the defendant's attorney find? You may refute using legal provisions. Yes, Your Honor, I nod. This is the Municipal Primary Court's conviction ruling for our client. First, the Municipal Primary Court alleged our client knowingly took money that suspects had robbed from the bank, yet still chose to take it. Therefore, the court ruled our client's subjective intent was to rob money from the bank, convicting him as an accomplice. Second, the Municipal Primary Court used the fact that our client, David Thompson, communicated with the suspects. As further confirmation, we do not accept these 2 points of the ruling. Our reasons are as follows. First, our client has already made clear that the following is somewhat complex. I will refer to our client as David Thompson. First, David stated clearly that the suspect proactively asked him why he was crying in the bank. After hearing his situation, the suspect proactively gave him money to save his critically ill father in the hospital. Furthermore, David's initial emotional state was one of worry and fear. Therefore, David had no subjective intent to rob. Moreover, David stated that the suspect cursed at him. In that situation, the suspect cursing David clearly indicated dissatisfaction with David's actions. Crucially, the suspect was holding a dangerous weapon and could have harmed David on a whim. In this situation, David's life had no guarantee of safety. According to our legal provisions, David meets the conditions for a duress defense. Therefore, he bears no criminal liability. Based on the above arguments, we do not accept the second point of the Municipal Primary Court's ruling. Therefore, we move to overturn both the first and second trial verdicts against our client, David Thompson. What? The courtroom erupts into commotion. Everyone is stunned by the sharp arguments I've raised. After carefully considering them, some look at me with admiration. David's eyes light up too. I'm innocent? There's hope? I won't go to prison? Central Bank might lose? Amazing! Mom and Dad found such an incredible attorney. Emily also breathes a long sigh of relief. She looks at me with considerable admiration. There's actually hope of winning this case. Incredible! I really made the right choice joining this firm. Meanwhile, in Central Bank's legal office, William Ross's expression is terrifyingly dark, glaring coldly at Vincent Shaw. Director Shaw, didn't you guarantee we'd win? What's happening now? Vincent quickly forces a smile. Director Ross, don't worry. This case isn't over yet. Their attorney has some real skills, but our legal department isn't just sitting around collecting paychecks. The 2 points this attorney raised are indeed valid, but the first trial ruling had several points. The remaining points are the most critical. Vincent pulls out the first trial verdict files. William glances at them and snorts coldly. There better not be any problems. Keep watching this live stream closely. Report to me if anything happens. This is making me anxious. Remember, we cannot lose this case. After William leaves the office, Vincent exhales deeply and wipes the sweat from his forehead. William's presence just now put considerable pressure on him. As legal department director, he knows this case inside and out. They'll definitely win. But when he saw the opposing attorney, Vincent suddenly had a thought he couldn't shake. What if they win? Coming to his senses, Vincent slaps himself. Impossible. How could an unknown small firm and no name attorney possibly win? In the courtroom, I look at Judge Zhao. Your Honor, our statement is complete. Judge Zhao nods slightly and looks toward Marcus. Does Central Bank or the prosecution have anything to add? Marcus glares at me, gritting his teeth. This attorney is really something, only addressing the first 2 points and completely ignoring the rest of the ruling. Marcus raises his hand. Your Honor, I have questions. He gestures to the judge. Judge Zhao looks toward the defense, toward Marcus. Defense counsel may raise questions in court. Marcus takes a deep breath and pulls out the first trial verdict. He hands it to a nearby court clerk. I move to dismiss. Seeing Judge Zhao take it, he speaks seriously. The plaintiff's attorney from Dawn Law Firm just stated his dissatisfaction with the municipal primary court's first trial verdict and presented corresponding reasons, but plaintiff's counsel, you're cherry-picking, only addressing the first 2 points while deliberately ignoring the remaining ones. The third point of the ruling is that the municipal primary court determined that David Thompson, knowing the money was bank property, still chose to use that property to pay hospital bills. The defendant David Thompson stated very clearly just now that after David left the bank, he was no longer in danger, yet he still chose to take the money to the hospital. Based on this point, we can determine this was David's own subjective decision, not the duress situation the plaintiff's attorney described. I asked the plaintiff's attorney, when your client clearly knew that was bank property, why did he choose to go to the hospital instead of calling the police to turn in the bank's money or waiting until he reached a safe location before returning the money? This shows that first, he knew this was money robbed from the bank. At the moment he left the bank, David was out of danger and no longer met the conditions for duress defense. Combining these 2 factors, doesn't this subjectively amount to using the bank's robbed money to save his father? Of course, I understand this is human nature. I don't deny David's emotional concern and love for his father. But from a factual and legal perspective, the verdict against David has no problems. After Marcus finishes, he glances in my direction. That last part was improvised. He knows this case has generated significant public opinion, so he must be mindful of public perception. Judge Zhao nods slightly. Does the plaintiff have any objections or different views regarding the defendant's rebuttal? Marcus shoots me a challenging look. A faint smile plays on my lips. This is exactly what I've been waiting for. The moment to take down Central Bank has arrived. Your Honor, I have no objections to what the defense has raised. Defense counsel's perspective is correct, but there's one thing defense counsel has overlooked. I'd like to ask defense counsel, how do you determine that the money in David's hands belong to the bank? Defense counsel stated that our client David took the bank's money to pay hospital fees and used this to determine our client David's subjective intent. But how do you prove the money belonged to the bank? My counter-question catches Marcus Lee completely off guard. What does that even mean? What do you mean? How does the bank prove the money belongs to the bank? This question is absolutely outrageous. Not only is Marcus Lee stunned, but many courtroom observers are also confused. You can do that? That's incredible. What a sharp question. The viewers watching the live trial broadcast are stunned for several seconds. Haha, what does this mean? Make the bank prove the bank's money belongs to the bank. This lawyer has some real skill. This case is heading in a direction I can't predict. I feel like my brain is broken. Isn't this case about David Thompson? Shouldn't it focus on reducing David's sentence? The bank is supposed to be on the offensive. How come David's lawyer is being so aggressive now? Not sure, but this trial is fascinating. It's actually quite satisfying to watch. I don't really understand. Let's hear what Professor Stone has to say later. In the courtroom, my tricky question silences Marcus Lee completely. For a moment, he can't figure out what I'm thinking. From a questioning standpoint, my question is indeed flawless. But from a factual standpoint, if the money the robbers stole from the bank isn't the bank's, did it fall from the sky? Emily Carter looks at me thoughtfully, as if she's beginning to understand something. Judge Patricia Zhao strikes her gavel and looks at me calmly. Does the plaintiff's attorney have evidence or legal basis to support this claim? Yes, Your Honor. I pull out a document from the first trial records. Your Honor, this is evidence provided by the prosecution during the first trial. According to the evidence submitted by the prosecution, the bank was in chaos at the time. The robbers not only stole money from the bank itself, but also robbed customers who were conducting withdrawal transactions at the bank, mixing everything together in burlap sacks. According to surveillance footage, the robber who gave David the money randomly grabbed 2 bundles of cash from the burlap sack. These 2 bundles of cash cannot be distinguished as money robbed from the bank, or money taken from customers who had already withdrawn their funds and were preparing to leave. How does the bank prove this money belongs to the bank? If they cannot prove it, then the bank cannot establish that my client participated in robbing the bank. This money was indeed obtained through robbery, but not robbed by my client. The robber handed the money to my client. At most, my client is guilty of unjust enrichment. Everyone in the courtroom looks utterly confused. You can actually argue it this way? Judge Patricia Zhao frowns slightly. Having served as a presiding judge for many years, she has overseen hundreds of cases. This time, David Thompson's robbery case has enormous social impact, which is why the court president assigned her as presiding judge. But this is the first time she has encountered a case with such a convoluted process and such outrageous questions. She looks toward the bank's side. Does the bank have any evidence to refute the plaintiff's attorney's question? Marcus Lee is absolutely furious at this moment. Since when does a bank have to prove the bank's money belongs to the bank? Marcus Lee really wants to curse out loud, but he has already been warned once. If it gets serious, he'll be removed from the trial. With no other option, he forces himself to calm down. He raises his hand and speaks. Your Honor, I object to opposing counsel's argument. When customers are inside the bank has the right and responsibility to ensure their safety and privacy. The bank's customers had not yet left the bank, so naturally the money is considered the bank's responsibility, because the bank must bear primary or full responsibility for the loss of robbed customers' money. According to liability allocation, if customers have not left the bank premises, the money naturally counts as the bank's. Whatever the robbers stole, whether from the bank or customers, is considered bank property within the bank premises. Marcus Lee stares intensely at the plaintiff's attorney seat, filled with resentment toward me. I smile nonchalantly and raise my hand. Your Honor, regarding central bank's claim that customers who haven't left the bank premises have their property losses covered by bank liability, I object. Your Honor, this was a case from 6 months ago. The case involved a bank customer who was withdrawing money at the bank. The money had just been withdrawn when it was targeted and stolen by a robber lying in wait. The robber was later caught, but the money had already been spent, and the person couldn't pay it back. So the customer who had withdrawn the money sought compensation from the bank and filed a lawsuit against Central Bank. However, the bank argued using their no liability after transaction policy and claimed the party failed to protect their own property, which ultimately led to the customer losing the case. Is this what Central Bank calls protecting customers' property safety within the bank premises? Is this what Central Bank means by customers who haven't left the bank have their money protected by the bank, with losses covered by the bank? We maintain a position of denial on this matter. Your Honor, we request that the customer from that case be allowed to enter as a witness. Judge Patricia Zhao nods slightly and strikes her gavel. The plaintiff's attorney's request for a witness is granted. After she speaks, a bailiff escorts a woman in her 40s or 50s into the courtroom. The woman walks into the courtroom and stares directly at Marcus Lee. For some reason, Marcus Lee suddenly has a bad feeling. On the bench, Judge Patricia Zhao reads the witness's information. The witness is Ms. Wilson, age 46. Is this identity correct? Ms. Wilson nods vigorously. Your Honor, I am Ms. Wilson. The identity is correct. After confirming the identity, Judge Patricia Zhao continues. The witness's identity is verified. Please describe the relevant situation. After hearing this, Ms. Wilson seems to have found an outlet, her voice thunderous. 6 months ago, I deposited money at Central Bank. The amount might not seem like much to Central Bank, $150,000. But that was money my husband and I worked hard for several years to save for our son to buy a house. Right after I withdrew the money, someone snatched it away. When they found the person later, the money was already gone. We followed our lawyer's advice and sued the bank. But the bank used their no liability after transaction policy and claimed I failed to properly safeguard the money, refused responsibility, and I lost the case. Today's the perfect opportunity. I want to ask Central Bank, what does this mean? Double standards, isn't it? When I sued you, you said no liability after transaction. Now that you're being sued, you're saying things like money stolen within bank premises means the bank must bear primary or full responsibility for customer losses. And according to liability allocation, if customers haven't left the bank premises, the money naturally counts as the bank's. So shouldn't you return my hard-earned money? Tell me, shouldn't you? Ms. Wilson starts off narrating calmly, but becomes more and more agitated, finally breaking into curses that are quite harsh. The bailiff tries to control her but can't. The courtroom and live stream viewers begin discussing. Looking at it this way, Central Bank really does have double standards. On one hand, claiming to be a victim, on the other hand, being the perpetrator. Dealing with Central Bank is just bad bad luck. I don't think other banks are this outrageous. Not sure. People can leave comments here about which banks to avoid. In the courtroom, Judge Patricia Zhao sees the witness losing control of her emotions and strikes her gavel. The plaintiff's witness is advised to control her emotions. Insulting the defendant in court is not permitted. This is a warning. Hearing the judge's voice, Ms. Wilson immediately regains control of her emotions. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I failed to control my emotions in court. I apologize. Judge Patricia Zhao shows no expression. Ms. Wilson, witness for the plaintiff, have you finished your testimony? Your Honor, I have finished. Bailiff, escort the plaintiff's witness out. After Ms. Wilson leaves the courtroom, Judge Patricia Zhao looks at Marcus Lee regarding the plaintiff's witness's claim that Central Bank failed to fulfill its duty to protect customers' property safety within the premises. Does the defendant Central Bank wish to provide supplementary explanation of the situation at that time? Marcus Lee clenches his fists tightly, forcing himself to calm down. This trial is truly agonizing for him. He even has a feeling he won't win the case. After taking a long breath, he calms down. Your Honor, the plaintiff's witness just insulted Central Bank in the courtroom, so I have doubts about the plaintiff's witness's mental state. Therefore, I believe what the plaintiff's witness said in court is insufficient to be considered courtroom evidence. After Marcus Lee finishes speaking, he notices a slight smile on my face across from him. He suddenly has a bad feeling. Just as Judge Patricia Zhao considers whether to grant Marcus Lee's request, I raise my hand. Judge Patricia Zhao notices this and asks, "Does the plaintiff's attorney have anything to add?" I smile slightly and raise the documents in my hand. A closer look reveals about a dozen pages. Marcus Lee looks at me with confusion. I smile at Marcus Lee and continue. Your Honor, we agree with the defendant's attorney's request. However, we have several more witnesses who can testify that Central Bank failed to protect customers' property safety within the bank. Marcus Lee's brows furrow tightly. Are you ever going to stop? He loses it. He really loses it. Marcus Lee doesn't know how to describe his current mood. He just stated the opposing witness might have mental issues. And instead of debating this point, I pull out a pile of witness materials. How can you be so underhanded? This is absolutely ridiculous. Marcus Lee has handled so many cases and has never seen anything like this. His composure completely crumbles. I smile silently, watching Marcus Lee fall apart. Weren't you acting so arrogant? Didn't you think you could keep debating with me? I'm not even debating with you anymore. You say this witness might have mental issues. What about the others? They can't all have them, right? Go ahead. Didn't you look down on me from Dawn Law Firm specializing in marriage counseling? What's wrong with marriage counseling? I can still leave you completely lost in criminal litigation. I smile slightly and continue. Your Honor, the evidence we possess sufficiently demonstrates situations where the bank failed to protect customers' property. Therefore, we request that the defendant Central Bank attorney's previous argument be dismissed. Thud! Judge Patricia Zhao strikes her gavel. The plaintiff's stated reason for the request is denied. Basis: the bank has a legal obligation to safeguard customer property. The evidence presented by the plaintiff does not represent universal practice. The request itself is granted. Basis for granting: the defendant Central Bank failed to fulfill its obligation to ensure bank customer safety. The moment she strikes the gavel, Judge Patricia Zhao has clearly explained her reasoning. However, some viewers watching the trial live stream don't understand what this means and raise questions. Professor Stone, what does it mean to both deny and grant? Yeah, I'm totally confused. Professor Stone, please explain. Professor Robert Stone smiles slightly and explains Judge Patricia Zhao's ruling. The reason for denying the plaintiff's stated reason is that the plaintiff's reasoning and evidence suggest the bank has no responsibility to protect customers' property safety, but according to legal provisions, banks must ensure customer property safety within their premises. Central Bank winning lawsuits against its victimized customers doesn't represent universal practice. If the reasoning were granted, it would establish that banks have no responsibility to protect customer property safety. But if denied entirely, Central Bank still wouldn't have fulfilled its obligations in this case. The judge handled it cleverly. Denying the plaintiff's stated reason maintains the dignity of the law. Granting the request itself demonstrates that Central Bank indeed failed in its duties. Central Bank went in the wrong direction from the start of this case, falling completely into the opposing argument. Professor Robert Stone shakes his head slightly. I'm afraid Central Bank is going to lose this case. Central Bank is going to lose? If Professor Stone says Central Bank will lose, then Central Bank is definitely done for. Of course, just look at who Professor Stone is. Professor Robert Stone looks looks at the comments and smiles slightly. All right, let's watch the final statements and verdict. In the courtroom, facing Judge Patricia Zhao's ruling, Marcus Lee raises his hand to object. Your Honor, I wasn't allowed to continue speaking and explain. I request that the previous ruling be declared invalid. Request denied. Marcus Lee looks bewildered. What does request denied even mean? Your Honor, may I ask why my request is denied? The ruling has been issued, and the defendant has been notified. Request denied. If the defendant wishes to continue pursuing this, an administrative review may be requested after the trial, but the current request is denied. If the defendant's attorney continues discussing this topic, a second warning will be issued. Marcus Lee looks toward the bench, feeling powerless, and slowly forces out the words. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Patricia Zhao glances indifferently at the defendant's side, specifically at Marcus Lee, then looks at me and strikes her gavel. Now the plaintiff and defendant will make their final court statements. Plaintiff's attorney, please make your final statement. Yes, Your Honor. The key to a court statement is whether it can move the judge, and I've prepared for this in advance. There's no need for emotional appeals. If this case is judged fairly, we won't lose, and David will receive a reduced sentence. Based on my previous understanding of Judge Patricia Zhao, what this judge values most is legal interpretation. I slowly stand up. Honorable Judge and judicial panel members, based on the litigation materials and court evidence we have submitted, we have nothing further to add. I only want to say that legal justice will not wrongly convict a good person. Judge Patricia Zhao looks at me with satisfaction and nods slightly. The plaintiff's statement is complete. The defendant may now make their statement. Marcus Lee knows this final statement is Central Bank's last chance. Marcus Lee slowly stands. Honorable Judge and judicial panel members, in this case, our central bank is the victim. I believe it's natural for people to have compassion, but the law is impartial. Our central bank is, after all, the victim. The plaintiff's request for us as the victim to provide compensation is completely inappropriate. Statement complete. After hearing Marcus Lee's statement, Judge Patricia Zhao looks expressionlessly at the defendant David Thompson facing the bench. The defendant may make a final statement. David looks up at the elevated bench, then glances in my direction. Honorable Judge and judicial panel members, I have no objections to this trial. I am willing to accept whatever judgment is rendered. Statement complete. Court is now in recess. Recess for 30 minutes. Court will reconvene in 30 minutes to announce the verdict. Judge Patricia Zhao strikes her gavel, entering the recess phase. The moment Judge Patricia Zhao announces the recess, all courtroom personnel stand, watching as Judge Patricia Zhao and the 3 judicial panel members leave the elevated bench. During the recess, everyone is anxious about the final verdict to be announced. Only one person is an exception, me. Emily Carter's palms are sweaty. This is her first time personally attending a trial. She also witnessed my courtroom arguments. Although the arguments are over, the final verdict is still unknown, so she's extremely nervous. Emily Carter looks at me curiously. Attorney, aren't you nervous about the final trial result? This is a major case, and it's being live streamed. I heard it's causing quite a stir. Aren't you worried at all? The corner of my mouth curves slightly. There's no need to be so nervous. What should be judged will be judged. What shouldn't won't be. We're not the ones who should worry. Look at Attorney Lee. As Central Bank's legal counsel, he should be much more nervous than us. Emily Carter glances at Marcus Lee, who's looking in her direction, and can't help but say, Attorney. Marcus Lee seems to be looking at us. I look up and notice Marcus Lee staring at me with eyes mixing anger, unwillingness, nervousness, and various negative emotions. I smile slightly. Don't worry about Attorney Lee. He's just doing eye exercises. Meanwhile, after the recess, the 3 judicial panel members, the presiding judge and 2 panel members conduct final deliberations. Regarding this case, do you 2 have any opinions? Judge Patricia Zhao looks at the other 2 panel members. One of them speaks. Regarding the plaintiff's claim that David is innocent, the first trial sentenced 20 years imprisonment. The second trial upheld it. If our final appeal verdict differs too greatly, won't it cause controversy? The other panel member nods in agreement. Judge Patricia Zhao frowns slightly. The verdict is based on law. We don't need to reference the first and second trials. Then let's follow the presiding judge's verdict. Ultimately, the 3 agree to let Judge Patricia Zhao make the final decision. In the courtroom, the 30 minutes quickly pass. Everyone following this case eagerly anticipates the final verdict. As Judge Patricia Zhao and the 3 judicial panel members enter the courtroom, all rise. Everyone in the courtroom stands. Marcus Lee nervously looks at the bench. Regarding this trial's outcome, he has no confidence whatsoever and can only wait for Judge Patricia Zhao to announce the verdict. Glancing at the plaintiff's side, he notices my relaxed expression, and his heart sinks. Judge Patricia Zhao holds the verdict documents and slowly speaks under everyone's gaze. This case is a final appeal heard by this court, the Municipal Superior Court. Plaintiff David Thompson, defendant Central Bank. This court has jurisdiction over this case. All applicable laws are based on domestic law. According to our criminal code, the elements of robbery include using violence, coercion, or threats to rob corporate property. The prosecution's claim that the plaintiff David Thompson was an accomplice to robbery does not meet the legal requirements. David Thompson did not commit the criminal act of robbery. However, David knowingly received property that was illegally obtained and still chose to use it to pay for their father's fees, which constitutes unjust enrichment and transfer of illicit funds and concealment of stolen property. Due to the circumstances and urgency of the situation, and considering that David had lost basic rationality at the time, the sentence is reduced. David Thompson is sentenced to 6 months imprisonment with 1 year probation and must return the illegally obtained property. Regarding the plaintiff's claim for compensation from Central Bank is indeed implicated in this case. Central Bank is ordered to apologize to David Thompson. All other claims are dismissed. Regarding the defendant's claims, all are dismissed. This is the final appeal verdict. According to our procedural law, this court will deliver the written verdict to all parties within 10 days of adjournment. The gavel falls. Court is adjourned. With Judge Patricia Zhao's words, the final appeal concludes. Hearing the final verdict, Marcus Lee completely breaks down. Lost. Central Bank lost, and lost utterly and completely. Not only was David ruled not guilty of robbery, overturning the first and second trial verdicts, but the sentence is only 6 months. Not only just 6 months, but probation. What does probation mean? David doesn't have to go to prison at all. As long as David stays law-abiding and doesn't commit crimes, this sentence is essentially nothing. The moment the verdict is announced, Marcus Lee, Central Bank's legal counsel, nearly loses his mind. In Central Bank's legal department office, Director Vincent Shaw watches the trial live stream. When he hears this verdict, he's momentarily stunned, then lets out a long sigh. While watching the trial live stream, he had a vague premonition that this trial would probably be lost. But what he didn't expect was that the verdict would be such a devastating loss. David getting probation is one thing, but Central Bank also has to apologize to David. Who can handle this? For a moment, Director Vincent Shaw has no idea what to do. If he tells William Ross about this trial result, he can already imagine himself walking out with his personal belongings right then and there. In Central Bank's president's office, William Ross watches the trial livestream close and is absolutely furious. He furiously pushes open the legal department door. Vincent Shaw, what did you promise me? Didn't you say Central Bank would definitely win and achieve victory in public opinion? Is this what you call victory? Earlier, William Ross watched the trial live stream with Director Vincent Shaw in the legal department and was extremely upset. But after returning to the president's office, he still couldn't help secretly watching the trial live stream. This live stream isn't just about whether they can win the case. It concerns Central Bank's reputation. Central Bank is just a regional bank. If its reputation is damaged, the loss to the bank would be immeasurable. After watching the entire trial live stream, William Ross's mood can only be described as a roller coaster. No, it only falls, keeps falling and falling until he's numb. There's no ups at all. The moment the verdict is announced, William Ross can't hold it in anymore and goes to the legal department to confront Director Vincent Shaw. Director Vincent Shaw feels wronged inside. Who could have imagined that a rookie lawyer focusing on divorce counseling could be so fierce in criminal litigation, dominating the entire trial, especially encountering such a seasoned presiding judge like Patricia Zhao? The final verdict is well-reasoned and evidence-based. There's no way to appeal. President Ross, this time was a mistake by our bank's legal department. Although we failed, we didn't completely fail. The result of losing is just a simple apology. As long as we achieve victory in public opinion, Central Bank still wins in the end. William Ross narrows his eyes. Public opinion? What public opinion? Our bank has been ordered to apologize. And you're still going on about public opinion. Do you think I'm stupid? How do you win public opinion after losing the case? Director Vincent Shaw looks troubled. He was just speaking off the cuff, and of course has no idea how to achieve victory in public opinion. His earlier words were entirely to placate William Ross. If our bank's reputation and credibility suffer damage, you can prepare to pack your things as legal department director. Director Vincent Shaw wants to say something more, but William Ross gives him no chance and storms out of the legal department. Director Vincent Shaw's expression is gloomy. Everything was supposed to be foolproof, but who could have expected this unexpected obstacle? At the trial scene, after announcing adjournment, Judge Patricia Zhao, and the other two judicial officers leave the courtroom. Since David is not declared innocent on the spot and is still suspected of unjust enrichment and transfer of illicit funds, even though it's probation, the necessary procedures must be followed, and David is escorted away by bailiffs. Emily Carter looks at me with excitement. "Attorney, we won this case. We won!" David was sentenced, but it's only a few short months, and it's probation. Compared to the 20-year prison sentence from the first and second trials, this trial can be said to be a major victory for us. "Attorney!" Emily Carter bounces slightly on her toes, her body trembling with excitement. I glance at Emily Carter, who's extremely excited, and smile slightly. "Didn't I tell you early on that we would definitely win this case?" Judge Patricia Zhao's verdict was within my expectations all along. The lawyer Harold Thompson hired before was too inexperienced. In this litigation, there were actually several key issues that weren't raised. The key point of this case was whether David actually committed robbery. As long as this point is refuted, then central banks and the prosecution's accusations are completely dismissed. There's also the presiding judge's attitude. David's case is very special. Final appeals often consider the first and second trial verdicts. Fortunately, Judge Patricia Zhao is a seasoned presiding judge who firmly upholds legal fairness. Having this outcome in the end is not surprising at all. All right, don't be so excited. Quickly organize the materials. There are still some related matters that need to be handled. We still have work to do. Yes, attorney. Emily Carter suppresses her excitement and dutifully finishes organizing the materials, then follows behind me, preparing to leave the courtroom. On the other side, Marcus Lee stares fixedly at me, his eyes showing either devastation or resentful jealousy. As we pass by, Emily Carter whispers quietly, "Attorney, that Marcus Lee from Central Bank's legal department seems very dissatisfied with you." I smile slightly. "We'll just go our own way." "Yes, attorney." Hearing this conversation, Marcus Lee is so angry he's about to cough up blood. Losing the case aside, but could you two whisper more quietly when passing by me? So close, so loud. Do you think I can't hear? There's no helping it. A loss is a loss. No amount of anger in court matters. The final appeal result is already out. After Marcus Lee finishes organizing the trial materials, he follows behind me and walks out of the courthouse. Outside the courthouse, reporters are eagerly preparing to conduct interviews, and some are even calling to notify their editors on the spot, preparing headlines. Shocking. David Thompson case takes dramatic turn. Central Bank, actually. Justice ultimately prevails. Central Bank faces justice's judgment, and titles like these. When I walk out of the courthouse, numerous media outlets swarm over, carrying cameras and extending microphones toward me. "Attorney, what are your thoughts on your litigation arguments in court this time? How did you come up with the idea of making the bank prove the bank's money belongs to the bank?" "Attorney, we understand your law firm is just a marriage counseling practice. Why did you perform so brilliantly in this criminal litigation?" Facing reporters chasing me with cameras and questions, I straighten my suit briefly. Although our firm is a marriage counseling practice, our attorneys are proficient in criminal, civil, and economic disputes, and handle all types of legal matters, which is why we won this case. If anyone needs legal representation, please consider Dawn Law Firm first. After the advertisement, I hurriedly leave the scene with Emily Carter. Only Central Bank's personnel remain at the scene. At this moment, some media outlets seem to sense a new story angle and approach Marcus Lee with cameras. "Attorney Lee, how do you feel about being so confident before the trial, but ultimately losing to an unknown law firm? You said the probability of Central Bank winning meant we didn't need to worry. Did you already know in your heart that Central Bank was bound to lose?" "Attorney Lee, do you have any financial ties with the plaintiff's attorney?" Marcus Lee's face darkens, his mouth twitching continuously. "What do you mean by that? Are you suggesting I'm a mole?" Marcus Lee is about to lose his mind. Other reporters hear this explosive question and their eyes light up. With their natural sensitivity to news, they're essentially setting traps. Some unscrupulous, sensationalist media reporters quickly swarm around Marcus Lee. Unlike last time, Marcus Lee entered the courtroom full of confidence, but exits not only having lost the case, but also being mercilessly stabbed in the heart. After David Thompson's trial ends, major media outlets compete to report, all with memorable quotes targeting Central Bank. "How does the bank prove the bank's money belongs to the bank?" quickly goes viral. Central Bank's reputation and image suffer tremendous damage. And at this moment, a comparison video also goes viral across the internet. The video begins with Marcus Lee speaking confidently. "As for the probability of winning, there's no need to worry. I believe everyone can judge this for themselves." The video ends with Marcus Lee's dignified retreating figure. Actually, from the beginning, Central Bank's attorney Lee knew Central Bank would lose this case. Why? Because he's too admirable, single-handedly infiltrating Central Bank's ranks, allowing a marriage counseling law firm to achieve victory, overturning Central Bank's reputation. What is this? This is going undercover for 10 years, all for this one moment. Once the video is published, it immediately attracts massive attention, with numerous netizens mocking in the comments. This is the first time I've heard of a lawyer infiltrating the enemy's ranks. This operation is truly impressive. Amazing. This kind of spin exists? An unscrupulous lawyer can be whitewashed like this? There's no helping it. The internet is like this. Even netizens who know the truth can't help but mock. Ha ha ha, this caption is brilliant. Infiltrating the enemy for 10 years, all for one move, waiting for my return. Ha ha ha, I can't continue. Next contestant, please. At Central Bank's internal meeting, William Ross holds up the video, his eyes filled with fury. What does this mean? Huh? Eating the bank's food, drinking the bank's water. What is the bank paying you for? I'm announcing now that Marcus Lee, due to causing extremely negative impact on the bank's image, is hereby officially terminated. You can take your things and leave. Marcus Lee watches the video content, completely baffled. This is how I went viral? Fine. If they don't want me, I'll quit. I refuse to believe I can't find another job. He immediately packs his things and leaves Central Bank. Central Bank faces massive repercussions from the live stream trial. The bank's reputation plummets to rock bottom, forcing them to apologize to their customers. They compensate all clients who previously lost cases and had items go missing at the bank, attempting damage control on their reputation. Central Bank's damage control efforts have only minimal effect on public opinion, so Central Bank spends heavily to buy off media outlets, trying to control the narrative. Unfortunately, netizens aren't buying it at all. To cool down public opinion, after spending a considerable sum, they finally achieve some results. But then legal commentator Professor Richard Luo releases a video titled "The Most Brilliant Court Defense I've Seen This Year." The video analyzes David Thompson's case. As a renowned legal commentator, Professor Richard Luo wields massive influence online. Every video he releases racks up terrifyingly high shares and views. The moment this video drops, Central Bank's paid media coverage instantly goes silent. In the video, Professor Luo breaks down the legal knowledge from the courtroom in detail. He also explains why the attorney argued from certain angles and analyzes the trial's key issues. Although the trial video blurs out Central Bank's name, everyone in the know recognizes it's Central Bank. The bank suffers another massive blow to its reputation. Compared to the internet buzz, Dawn Law Firm remains much quieter. In the first 2 days after winning the case, quite a few people come to consult on legal matters, but most are all talk, no action. They come trying to freeload some legal advice. Once they learn there's a fee, most of them bolt. Not a single case. Some women specifically come to consult me about marriage issues. I refer them all to Emily. Women connect better with women, right? Letting Emily handle consultations shouldn't be a problem. However, when these consultants see Emily is the one receiving them, for some reason they often leave hastily after less than 15 minutes. After the buzz dies down over the next 2 days, consultations drop off significantly. With time on my hands, I spend nearly 5,000 yuan hiring people. Over 2 days, they give the law firm a general renovation. At least from the outside, it looks much more professional than before. I spend another 5,000 on some basic office supplies. Overall, the firm actually looks like a proper law office now. Yeah, much better than before. I nod in satisfaction. However, the firm remains deserted. No cases come in. Looks like advertising on the internet isn't very effective. Those media ads aren't working either. During this time, I received plenty of invitations to handle criminal cases at other firms, but no cases to actually take on. But working for others isn't as comfortable as being my own boss. I turned them all down. Around 1:30 in the afternoon, 10 days after the trial ended, the sun blazes overhead. The weather outside feels slightly sweltering. I sip tea in the air conditioning. Emily is busy posting ads for the firm under Professor Luo's videos. The advertising method is simple and straightforward. No frills whatsoever. She leaves comments. The attorney who won this case is from Dawn Law Firm in the city. Our attorneys are highly skilled, proficient in both civil and criminal law. For legal cases, Dawn Law Firm is your best choice. Half an hour later, Emily grows numb from copying and pasting. She can't help asking, Attorney Sue, does advertising like this actually work? Our comments don't seem to have any effect. No activity in private messages at all. Of course it works, though posting just one might not have much impact. That's why you need to keep at it persistently. Besides, don't you want to handle more cases and gain more litigation experience? So you can become a top attorney after you're certified? I pump up this young, energetic intern lawyer with complete seriousness. I do. Then keep going. Yes, Attorney Sue. Fully fired up, Emily continues copying and pasting comments. I glance at the date. David should have completed his probation procedures today. Harold and I agreed to settle the attorney fees today. Calculating the time, they should arrive soon. Sure enough, while I'm thinking, Harold and Margaret slowly approach Dawn Law Firm's entrance, supported by David. Smiles beam across their faces. Unstoppable. Their son's 20-year sentence reduced to probation. To this elderly couple, I'm nothing short of their savior. Otherwise, given their age, they wouldn't have lived to see their son released. David's mouth also stretches in a smile. This case made him recognize my litigation skills. Without me, by the time he got out, he'd be completely disconnected from society. He feels genuine gratitude toward me, supporting the elderly couple as they enter the law firm. Harold breaks free from David's support and heads inside the office. David almost can't keep up. On the firm's brand new sofa, I place 3 bottles of mineral water in front of the Thompson family. At the same time, I hand the verdict to David. This is the final verdict from the trial. I kept it safe here for you. Keep it secure. Don't lose it. David carefully and solemnly folds the verdict several times, folding it to about pocket size, then tucks it into his pocket. He pulls out a black bag from his backpack. Attorney Sue, according to the contract, the attorney fee is about 100,000 yuan. My father and I discussed it. If it weren't for you, Attorney Sue, I'd be looking at least a dozen years. Now it's just probation for a few months. Here's 120,000. I know it's nothing compared to what you've done, but please accept it as our gratitude. David firmly pushes the money into my hands. Harold and Margaret, worried I might refuse, chime in from the side. Attorney Sue, we owe this case entirely to you. Compared to what other attorneys charge, this is already very little. Please accept it. That's right. You've done our family such a huge favor. This gratitude fee isn't much. I don't stand on ceremony. For a case like this, Attorney Jin charged 188,000 at the appeal. I got David out of prison time entirely. This amount isn't excessive. Attorney fees are generally based on case difficulty. Seeing me accept the money, David exhales in relief. As if remembering something, he asks, Attorney Sue, are you familiar with matrimonial law? I look up at David. What? Are you planning to file for divorce? My eyes meet his. David shifts in his seat, making the new sofa squeak. Facing my question, he shakes his head. Attorney Sue, I'm still on probation. I'm afraid filing a lawsuit would cause trouble. The reason I'm asking is I want to refer a divorce case to you. It's my childhood friend. He needs to file for divorce. Attorney Sue, if you handle divorce cases, I can introduce you to him. David's recommendation shows real thoughtfulness. Thinking of me first when a case comes up. He's a solid friend. A few days ago, I won that case in court and promoted my firm in front of media reporters. The publicity was loud and clear, yet still no cases. Media only cares about explosive headlines. Netizens only care about dramatic trials. Getting cases through this kind of publicity, I was clearly overthinking it. I didn't expect David's visit today to bring an unexpected surprise. Divorce cases are our firm's specialty. You should know that, right? David scratches his head. I thought you were a specialized criminal attorney. That's right. I am a specialized criminal attorney, and I'm also specialized in civil matrimonial law. I show no modesty whatsoever. I am what I am. That's great. With you on the case, Attorney Sue, my friend's divorce has hope. He seems exceptionally happy about his friend's potential divorce. Can you tell me about your friend's situation? You seem pretty happy about him getting divorced. Is he escaping from hell? Hearing me describe his friend's divorce as escaping hell, David's expression instantly turns furious, even angrier than when talking about his own wife. If he can get divorced, it's more than just escaping hell. David slams his fist on the sofa. An indent the size of a fist, about 2 centimeters deep, immediately appears. Sorry, Attorney Sue, got too worked up for a moment. It's just that my friend's wife, I don't even know how to describe her. She's absolutely outrageous. You know those outrageous people you see online. She's even worse than that. Can you understand, Attorney Sue? That's why I'm so angry. I just feel so bad for my friend. David's eyes carry a trace of pain. Yes, pain. Pain for what his friend is going through. Looking at my newly purchased sofa, I feel a bit of pain too. Just bought it. Cost 800 yuan brand new. Hold off on defending him for now. First, describe your friend's situation. I straighten my suit a bit and call Emily over to take notes. David nods heavily and begins introducing the situation. My friend is an honest guy. A programmer, makes about 20,000 a month. He's from a demolition household in the city, owns 3 apartments. One for his parents, one for him and his wife, and one that was originally rented out. But his wife said a coworker wanted to rent it, so they stopped renting it out, planning to rent it to this coworker instead. But turns out, his wife secretly gave the apartment to her brother. His wife's from out of town, her family's kind of poor. She's around 30, 5'3", 120 pounds, makes $3,000 a month, and has 2 younger brothers. Her parents don't have social security or anything, just do odd jobs, making about $2,000 a month. Her 2 brothers, one dropped out of middle school and mooches off their parents, the other graduated college a year ago and still hasn't found work. My friend is a typical honest guy. He hands over his entire salary to his wife. They live paycheck to paycheck. She spends everything, his money included. My friend buys cigarettes one at a time, saving up daily just to afford a single smoke. The more I hear, the more absurd it sounds. What's he even getting out of this? Emily, taking notes, listens to David's description while unable to help frowning. She feels this is way too much. This isn't a marriage at all. Isn't the husband a complete sucker? This thought suddenly pops into Emily's mind. I really can't stand listening anymore. I interrupt David. Get to the point. Why does he want a divorce? Because my friend's wife says he doesn't love her anymore. Because of this, she insists on divorcing. My friend originally thought, fine, let's divorce then. He's had enough anyway. But when it came to dividing assets, he discovered his wife had already transferred most of his premarital assets into marital property and demanded division. Their original marital property was completely spent by his wife on purses, cosmetics, and various beauty treatments. If they divorced like this, my friend would basically leave empty-handed and lose everything. Hearing this, I finally understand. Not loving him anymore is just an excuse. This guy woke up a bit late. While together, she drained all the marital property. After transferring all his premarital assets, she uses not loving him as a reason to divorce. This is truly outrageous. I silently finished listening to David. Based on your description, I have a general understanding of this case. Our firm can take it, but you still need to ask your friend's opinion first, whether he wants to retain our law firm. Only then can we proceed with the remaining matters. Attorney Sue, I understand. I'll talk to my friend immediately after I leave. After seeing off David and the Thompsons, I tell Emily, stop posting ads for now. First, organize the information from this civil case David mentioned. I'm heading out. I leave the law firm and head to the bank. I deposit the $120,000 into the account. $120,000. Plus the previous balance makes over $150,000 total. The firm's debt crisis is temporarily resolved. After seeing the bank balance notification, I remove the landlord from my blacklist. Now I'm finally not afraid of the landlord messaging me about next month's rent. Near dusk, I receive a call from David saying he's talked to his friend, who'll arrive at the firm shortly. I tell Emily to prepare. Emily is excited about the incoming case too. Last time was a criminal case. She learned a lot from it. This time it's a civil case, and matrimonial law at that, a lucrative specialty. She's also curious about David's friend's actual situation. Soon, David arrives at Dawn Law Firm with his friend. Compared to David, this friend looks like he just got out of a detention center. He has absolutely no spirit, clearly deeply wounded by this marriage. David sits on the sofa and briefly introduces his friend. His name is Michael Jang. Compared to David's description of the case, Michael, as the party involved, speaks in more detail and with more reference value. I listen carefully as Michael describes the case information. Occasionally, I interject with some key questions. An hour and a half later, I finally piece together the whole story. Married 3 years, no children, no custody obligations. The couple has almost no marital property and even carries substantial marital debt. Michael's premarital assets consist of 3 apartments. 2 of them became marital property. I'm very curious about this. According to marriage law, both parties' premarital assets are protected by law. Even if Michael sold the apartments, that money would still be premarital assets. Additionally, any appreciation would still be premarital property. How did Michael's wife manage to convert them into marital property? How did these 2 apartments become marital property? Bringing this up, Michael wants to slap himself. My wife was angry, and nothing I did would calm her down. Finally, out of options, I asked what would make her not angry. She told me to write her a guarantee letter. It included clauses about gifting the property. I just wanted to appease her, so I wrote what she asked. I never thought this could be used as evidence for asset division in divorce. Not only that, now that we're not divorced, she keeps borrowing money to buy household items, saying the more debt the better. As long as I don't agree to divorce, it's our joint debt. Isn't this clearly deliberately creating marital debt? But since she's buying household items, it's not easy to define whether this constitutes deliberately creating marital debt. Suddenly, something occurs to me. Does your wife have any attorney friends? Michael furrows his brow slightly. Not that I know of, but there's a famous female matrimonial attorney in the city who explains marriage asset division through short videos. My wife watches her videos all the time. She used to tell me that if we got divorced, she'd hire this attorney to make sure I left with nothing. Based on Michael's description, isn't this clearly exploiting legal loopholes to drain the husband's assets? An ordinary woman couldn't possibly have this many schemes. Someone's clearly coaching her from behind, and it's specifically a matrimonial and family attorney. Ordinary people don't know the proper methods to protect their premarital assets. It's easy to exploit loopholes against them. This is why they say, don't marry someone who knows the law, especially matrimonial law. Otherwise, you could fall into a trap at any moment. Before I can answer Michael's question, David gets anxious first. Attorney Sue, she's a professional matrimonial attorney. Can't you just figure it out? What you're saying questions Attorney Sue's expertise. Think about it. Without Attorney Sue, I'd still be in the detention center. Attorney Sue isn't just a professional criminal attorney, but also a professional matrimonial consultant. Hearing his childhood friend David's words, Michael gains a new appreciation for my legal capabilities. Michael feels somewhat reassured. Attorney Sue, can my situation still be resolved? What are the chances of winning? If we win, how much of my assets can I get back? Michael's eyes show a trace of anxiety. After all, this represents his parents' lifetime of hard work. An apartment in the city costs several million. To just hand it over to a woman he's been married to for 3 years, who's given him no good memories. He can't accept it. Every time he thinks about it, he wants to slap himself. I take a sip of tea and provide a simple analysis. Your case is somewhat complex. Generally speaking, in matrimonial litigation, you'd likely get 60% of current assets, but you'd still have to give her about 40%, including her debts, because her debts do count as household expenses. However, if you retain our law firm, we should be able to protect at least 2 apartments from division. I can't guarantee the rest for now. Will you retain our firm? Hearing my words, Michael gets somewhat excited. He's consulted other law firms too. The answers those attorneys gave were similar to mine. 40% of 2 apartments would still be several $100,000. Now I'm directly stating at least 2 apartments can be protected. For Michael, this is an unexpected, pleasant surprise. I'll retain you. I'll retain you. Attorney Sue, I'm retaining Dawn Law Firm for my divorce case. Since you're retaining us, then prepare to sue your wife on fraud charges. Michael, David, and Emily all look bewildered at my words. Isn't this a divorce case? Michael looks confused. Attorney Sue, I'm filing for divorce. I raise both hands to rub my temples, looking at Michael. The purpose of filing for divorce is to get divorced, right? And you don't want her to divide your property, right? Yes. That woman keeps spending my money and lying to me. Married only 3 years and wants 40% of my property. I'm not willing. Then that's exactly it. Sue on fraud charges. I guarantee you'll achieve both objectives. As long as you achieve both objectives, do you still care whether it's a divorce case? 3 questions in succession. Facing my inquiry, Michael shakes his head. I don't care. There you go. Whether it's a divorce case doesn't matter. Michael processes this logic in his head. As if just realizing it, he looks at me in shock. Attorney, you mean you can actually send that woman to prison? I shake my head. I can't guarantee that. I can only guarantee your objectives will be met. All right, since the retention scope and matters are confirmed, if you have no other questions, let's sign the retention contract. The attorney fee will be 10% of the combined 40% value of your 2 properties. If you agree, we can sign the retention contract. Michael still hesitates. Isn't this attorney fee too high? David slaps Michael on the back. What are you hesitating about? You can get divorced, get back 40% of the property, and maybe even have a chance to send that bloodsucker to prison. It's only 10%. If it were me, with a chance to send that woman away, I wouldn't hesitate even at 20%. Michael opens his mouth, but the rest of his words make no sound. I sip my tea, waiting quietly. 2 minutes later, Michael seems to make up his mind. Attorney Sue, I agree. Let's sign the contract. Several $100,000 coming in. I'm secretly delighted. I have Emily print out the relevant retention contract. After signing the contract, I have Michael pay 5,000 yuan for lawsuit-related fees. Refund the excess or charge for shortfall. Fair and square. After Michael and David leave, Emily walks into the office with the organized materials. Attorney Sue, are we really going to sue Michael's wife on fraud charges? What else? The retention contract is signed. Once Michael delivers the evidence he's gathered to the firm, we can submit the lawsuit materials. Emily feels surprised and a bit excited at the same time. She originally thought this this was a civil case, but it's turning into criminal litigation. Alright, don't get too excited. I'm giving you a particularly challenging task. Under the short videos of that matrimonial attorney Michael's wife mentioned, comment daily pretending to be a resentful wife, trying to get a chance to connect with her. This is key evidence. Yes, Attorney Sue, I understand. Emily doesn't understand my purpose, but she knows what I call key evidence must be hugely helpful to the case. Since it's hugely helpful, as an intern attorney, this is her task. That evening, as a female college student doing her internship, Emily returns to her Capital Law School dorm. Her roommates are discussing where to go tomorrow. Emily hunches over her phone searching for the short video creator Michael mentioned. Attorney Linda Yang, years of focus on matrimonial law, experience with hundreds of marriage cases, some understanding of criminal law arising from marriage. Emily puts on her earphones and enters Attorney Yang's account homepage. All the content titles read the same. How women can protect their rights in marriage. How to ensure you get more marital property after divorce and leave the husband empty-handed. How women can maximize their benefits when seeking divorce. Emily's fingertips swipe, opening one signature video after another. The more she watches, the more she frowns. How to describe these video contents. Protecting your rights in divorce is perfectly fine, but Attorney Yang's video content completely exploits legal loopholes to teach people how to obtain the other party's premarital assets and create legal gaps. Put plainly, it's equivalent to stealing the other party's premarital private property. Moreover, some people in the comments applaud enthusiastically. Some boast about the real benefits they've gained. Below are uniform comments of agreement and envy. You must have gotten a lot this time. Tell us so we can be super envious. You're amazing. Nice. We should learn from you. Things like this. The more Emily reads, the deeper her frown becomes. She completely cannot understand this behavior. Stealing someone's property this way, there's no morality left at all. These people are treating marriage like a business transaction, aren't they? Emily completely cannot understand this behavior. But to gather evidence, the key evidence I mentioned, Emily leaves comments in the video section. The next day, I wake up at the law firm. The original owner lived at the firm. For convenience, I'm temporarily staying here too, mainly to save money. After a simple wash-up, I straighten my clothes. Opening the door, I see Emily already standing at the firm's entrance. Morning, Attorney Sue. Emily flashes two standard dimples and walks into the firm. Attorney Sue, I commented under all of Attorney Yang's videos yesterday, but she didn't respond. Hand me your phone. Let me see your comments. Emily hands me her phone. After seeing the comment content, I furrow my brow slightly. You call this a resentful wife with an unhappy life? Emily's comment reads, Attorney Yang, I'm a housewife. My life is miserable. Please help me. If I were this attorney, I wouldn't bother responding either. Nothing compelling about it. I delete all of Emily's comments in one go. Then, with lightning-fast typing, I write a large chunk of text in the comment section and post it. I return the phone to Emily. Following what I just posted, copy it a few more times and also contact her via private message. Emily stares wide-eyed at the posted content in the comments section. Hello, Attorney Yang. I'm a housewife. My husband earns $1 million annually, owns 3 apartments in the city, plus a large flat. Assets, around $30 million. I want a divorce, but don't want to give up my current lifestyle. I'm really conflicted. I want to ask Attorney Yang if there's any solution. Please. Followed by a pleading emoji. Attorney Sue, will posting like this work? Of course. What does this Attorney Yang focus on when coaching women through divorce? The attorney fees, obviously. Why else would she be so generous? One case dividing 60% of assets, taking 10 to 30%. That's easily several $100,000 in fees. One case, several $100,000. 10 cases. That's several million, right? This kind of divorce litigation is easy to handle with minimal risk. Pretty sweet deal, right? Honestly, I'm a bit tempted myself, but handling these cases, advertising them easily causes problems. Before I can say anything, Emily exclaims in surprise, Attorney Sue? Attorney Yang replied to my private message. So fast? I'm also somewhat surprised, but thinking about it, it's normal. After all, 30 million in assets as mentioned in the comment. Absolutely a premium client, she replied, saying she can help with my case, but I need to prove my assets. After verification, she can pull me into her exclusive fan group. I cough awkwardly twice. Asset verification is a bit troublesome. Just as I'm pondering what to do, Emily asks seriously, Attorney Sue, I've already been pulled into her exclusive fan group. What do I do next? My eyes instantly widen like saucers. I didn't expect Emily to be a rich kid, but thinking about about it, if an ordinary undergraduate student's background was truly ordinary, how could she be accepted as a student by a top legal expert? Thinking of this, it makes sense. Emily just now indeed used a small portion of her family's assets for verification. Seeing my slightly surprised expression, Emily hurriedly explains, "Attorney Sue, I found asset verification documents online. Didn't expect her to actually believe it. Do I have stupid written on my forehead?" I twitch the corner of my mouth. Fine, let's say that's true. Now's not the time to expose it. I cough twice, not dwelling on this point. Next, screenshot everything in Attorney Yang's fan group. Also download and save all video content. If she connects with you to give advice, save the entire process. Then wait until Michael has fully prepared the evidence I asked him to gather, and will submit the lawsuit to court. Emily nods solemnly. I lean back on the sofa. All aspects of this case are now prepared, just waiting to file the lawsuit. Soon, Michael prepares the evidence materials I requested. After having Emily organize them, I go to the primary court to submit the lawsuit materials. Shortly after, the court accepts the case. Meanwhile, at Michael's home, Michael watches his wife Jessica Z bring home items bought with loans. A trace of displeasure flashes across his brow. Jessica yells arrogantly, "What? Don't like what you see? Then divorce me. If you don't divorce me for a day, I'll spend $2,000 a day buying furniture and home items. You'll use all this stuff I'm buying anyway. I'm not buying just for myself. This is marital debt. If you don't agree to divorce, you'll still have to repay this debt. I'm telling you, not suing you is me giving you face. I suggest you sign the divorce settlement sooner rather than later." Jessica keeps cursing and complaining. Saying she doesn't want to sue is a lie. But if she files for divorce this way, without a good reason for divorce, she might not get the result she wants. She must make him file. Michael refuses, so she just keeps dragging it out, torturing Michael, forcing him to divorce. Michael looks at the woman before him, his face full of impatience. He tosses a courier package onto the sofa. "This is a court summons. Take a good look." Court? Hearing these two words, Jessica's face lights up with excitement. Her footsteps pound the floor as she jogs to the sofa, picks up the package, and says while opening it, "Honestly, you could have just signed the divorce settlement directly. You've consulted attorneys before. Filing a lawsuit means you'll pay more attorney fees. Why bother?" Jessica cheerfully opens the package, originally thinking it's a divorce case. But after opening the envelope and seeing the summons content, her eyes widen involuntarily. She looks at Michael in disbelief. She roars, "Michael Jang, we're supposed to be filing for divorce, and you're charging me with fraud? Michael Jang, what exactly do you mean? We're getting divorced, so what does charging me with fraud mean?"